Your success isn't really yours. It's your father's unfinished dream. Think about that for a second. Every time he pushed you, every time he scolded you, every time you felt he was too hard on you, you thought it was rejection. You thought he wanted to control you. But what if you were wrong? What if behind every harsh word was a man trying to finish the story he never could? What if your life is not just your own, but the continuation of a dream passed down through blood? Most men never see this truth until it's too late. They waste years fighting their fathers instead of understanding them. They mistake love for pressure, guidance for control, and end up carrying resentment instead of power. But here's the thing. Once you see it, once you understand the secret behind the push, everything changes. You stop dragging the weight as a burden, and you start carrying it as a crown. Stay with me until the end of this video, because once you hear the full story, you will never look at your father or yourself the same way again. Your success is not yours alone. It is your father's unfinished dream. Let that sink in. Every man walking this earth carries more than his own ambition. He carries the echoes of a father's voice. He carries the weight of expectations he never asked for. Think back. Do you remember the times your father scolded you for being lazy? When he pushed you to study harder? When he demanded more from you in sports, in work, in life? And you felt offended. You thought, why is he never satisfied? Why does he never let me breathe? That pain, that tension, that silent war between fathers and sons. It has been there for centuries. A farmer in a poor village wanted to be educated but never had the chance. So when his son sits at a desk fumbling through books, he doesn't see a child who is tired. He sees himself. He sees his unfinished dream. A young man in the city wanted to be an athlete, but poverty forced him into labor. So when his boy shows up to football practice slow and half-hearted, the father erupts. Not because he hates his son, but because he remembers every door that's shut in his own face. And he whispers inside, "My son will not be me." Here is the thing. Fathers rarely explain this. They rarely say, "Son, I am pushing you because I failed where I wanted to succeed." Instead, it comes out as anger, as pressure, as criticism. And you, as a son, mistake it for rejection. You scorn him. You rebel. You think he doesn't understand me. He wants to control me. But what if the truth is different? What if his demand is not control, but desperation? What if his discipline is not tyranny, but love translated badly through the scars of his own failure? Every father is a man who once dreamed of more, and every son is the living continuation of that dream. The problem is, most sons never realize it. They see a strict father, a hard father, sometimes even a cold father. But behind that, there is a man who once stood at the edge of possibility and fell short, and so he looks at you, and in your eyes, he sees his second chance. This is the weight you don't see, the inheritance that is invisible. Not money, not land, not titles, but unfinished dreams waiting to be carried forward. And here's the hard question. When you reject your father, are you rejecting him? Or are you rejecting the dream he placed in your hands? Why does a father push his son so hard? Why does he scold, demand, even shout, when all the son wants is a moment of peace? Here's the truth that few men ever speak out loud. A father's push is not born in the present. It is born in the past. Every man carries scars. Some are visible: the limp in his step, the wrinkles on his brow. Most are invisible: the dreams he buried, the doors that closed before he could walk through them. These scars do not heal easily. They do not fade. They turn into whispers. Whispers that follow him into fatherhood. And when he looks at his son, those whispers become shouts. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young man who dreamed of becoming a lawyer. He studied hard, but his family could not afford the fees. He dropped out, took the first job he could find, and buried the dream. Years later, his son began high school. The father saw potential, bright, curious, full of energy, but instead of encouraging gently, he pressed, harder and harder, study more, score higher, get into law school, do not waste time. The son resented him, thinking, He just wants to control my life. But the truth? The father was not chasing his son's future. He was chasing his own past. He was running after the version of himself he had lost. That is the secret behind the push. When your father drives you to your limits, it is not because he wants to break you. It is because life once broke him. History is filled with men who carried their father's unfinished business. Take Alexander the Great. People remember him as the conqueror who stretched his empire across continents. But what few remember is this: he was carrying his father Philip's dream. Philip II of Macedon had already begun the vision of uniting Greece and reaching into Persia. He was assassinated before he could finish. Alexander was only 20 when he took the throne. And what did he do? He didn't just continue the campaign, he completed it. He surpassed it. He carved his father's unfinished dream into history. Now here's the twist. Alexander could have hated his father. Philip was stern, often ruthless, sometimes humiliating. The son could have rebelled, chosen peace over conquest, but he didn't. He saw the unfinished dream, and he carried it forward. This pattern repeats everywhere. Andrew Carnegie's father was a poor weaver in Scotland. His craft was destroyed by the Industrial Revolution. He died in failure, a man who had lost his trade, his dignity, his dream. But young Andrew saw that pain. He carried it inside him like fire. He promised himself he would not die like his father. And so he pushed, harder than anyone around him. He rose from a factory boy earning pennies to one of the richest industrialists in history. Was Carnegie's empire built only for himself? Or was it also the redemption of his father's broken dream? Think about this in your own life. Have you ever wondered why your father insisted you go further, work harder, become greater? Why he refused to let you settle for average? It wasn't simply ambition. It was memory. Memory of what he lost. Memory of what he couldn't reach. Memory of nights when he lay awake thinking, if only I had worked harder. If only I had one more chance. Fathers rarely admit their regrets. Pride keeps them silent. They would rather push their sons than confess their own failures. And so the push feels harsh. It feels unfair. It feels like tyranny. But the truth is, it is love in disguise. A desperate, imperfect kind of love. A love that says, son, don't be me. Don't repeat my story. Don't carry my regrets. Let me give you another example. Richard Williams, father of Venus and Serena. He was not a tennis champion. He was not even a professional athlete. He was a man who saw the closed doors of race and poverty in America. He carried his own unfinished ambitions, and he decided his daughters would not live in that same prison. He pushed them relentlessly. From childhood, training at dawn, enduring pressure that seemed unbearable. People criticized him. They said he was too hard, too controlling. But what happened? His daughters became two of the greatest tennis players in history. Were they living only their dream? Or were they carrying their father's unfinished battle for respect and greatness? This is the paradox. The push feels like a burden when you're young. But when you look back as a man, you realize it was a gift. A heavy gift, yes, but a gift nonetheless. The secret behind the push is this. Every father sees in his child the chance to rewrite the ending of his own story. He cannot go back. He cannot fix what is broken, but he can pass the torch. And if you carry it, if you run with it, both father and son win. Now let's step into psychology. Carl Jung spoke about the unlived life of the parent that seeps into the child. He said what is left unfinished in the father often becomes the task of the son. Modern psychology calls it intergenerational transmission. What your father suppresses, what he abandons, what he regrets, does not vanish. It flows into you, like a current under the surface. And unless you recognize it, you mistake it for your own desire. How many men have pursued medicine, law, business, or the military, not because they truly wanted it, but because their father's dream was whispering inside them? How many men rebelled, running in the opposite direction, only to discover later they were still defined by their father's shadow? This is the reality. You cannot escape the push. You can only understand it. And once you understand it, you can decide, Do I carry this dream? Do I transform it? Do I build something greater? Here's another real-world story. A man I once knew grew up in a household where his father failed in business, bankruptcies, debts, humiliation. That father pushed his son relentlessly to take the safe path government job, steady paycheck. The son hated it. He thought his father was crushing his potential. But years later, the son realized the truth. His father wasn't trying to hold him back. He was trying to protect him from repeating the same pain. His push was fear disguised as caution. And this is crucial. Not every push is about glory. Some pushes are about survival. A father who starved wants his son never to be hungry. A father who grew up in war wants his son never to see violence. A father who lost his freedom wants his son to breathe free air. It doesn't always look like ambition. Sometimes it looks like obsession with safety, security, and control, but the source is the same. Unfinished dreams. Men, hear me on this. When you feel resentment toward your father's demands, pause. Look deeper. Ask yourself, what dream was he chasing through me? What regret was he trying to rewrite? What wound was he trying to heal by pushing me forward? Because once you see that, you stop resenting him. You start understanding him. And in that moment, the torch in your hand stops feeling like a burden. It starts feeling like power. Here's the hardest truth of all. Your father's push will not last forever. One day, his voice will fall silent, and you will stand alone with the dream in your hands. On that day, you will understand the depth of his push. It wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to prepare you. And the question will no longer be, why did he push me so hard? It will be, what will I do now that he is gone? A boy grows up believing his father is too hard, too demanding, too cold, and maybe you thought the same. You wondered why he never praised you, why he always noticed your mistakes, never your victories, why he pushed you when all you wanted was a moment to breathe. This is the root of the misunderstanding. The son feels unloved, the father feels unheard, and between them grows a wall of silence. But here's the thing. The son mistakes pressure for rejection. The father mistakes silence for strength, and both walk away wounded. Think about your own life. Maybe your father told you to study harder while your friends were playing outside. Maybe he criticized your work, even when you gave your best. Maybe he told you, you can do better, when all you wanted was a simple I'm proud of you. And so you began to think, he doesn't care. He doesn't love me. But that wasn't the truth. The truth is, he cared too much. He loved you so much it hurt him to watch you settle for less. But he didn't know how to say it. Here's where psychology helps us see the picture more clearly. Fathers of past generations were rarely taught to express affection. They grew up in harder times. For them, survival was love. Provision was love. Discipline was love. But for the son who grew up in a different time, it felt like distance. This is the tragic irony. The father thinks he is giving everything. The son thinks he is receiving nothing. And the war begins. Look at history, and you'll see this pattern everywhere. Julius Caesar had a daughter, but no son to carry his name. When he adopted Octavian, later known as Augustus, he pushed him mercilessly into politics and leadership. Octavian, young and frail, often resented the pressure. But when Caesar was assassinated, Augustus carried forward his vision and became Rome's first emperor. At the time, it felt like tyranny. Later, it revealed itself as inheritance. Or look at Joe Jackson, father of Michael Jackson. He was notoriously strict, even harsh. Michael often spoke of the pain of his childhood, of rehearsals that felt like punishments. He misunderstood it as cruelty. But behind it, Joe saw something the boy could not see, greatness waiting to be born. Was it misguided? Yes. Was it painful? Yes. But without it, would Michael Jackson have become the king of pop? This is not to excuse abuse. It is to reveal perspective. The line between pressure and cruelty is thin, and fathers often cross it without knowing. But beneath even the harshest push, there is often a seed of love that the son cannot see until years later. Let's make it personal. Imagine a father who worked his whole life in a factory, his hands rough, his back bent, his dreams forgotten. He comes home tired, but when he looks at his son, he says, "Don't be like me. Study harder. Make something of yourself." The boy hears criticism. The man means love. The boy hears rejection. The man means protection. This is the misunderstanding. And unless it is broken, it can last a lifetime. How many men grow old still resenting their fathers? How many fathers die believing their sons never understood them? The tragedy is not that they didn't love each other. The tragedy is that they didn't speak the same language of love. Fathers speak in sacrifice. Sons listen for affection. The signals cross. The meaning is lost. And here is where bitterness is born. A son rebels. He says, "I will never be like him." But years later, he looks in the mirror and realizes he has become exactly that man. Because resentment is not freedom. It is just another kind of chain. Think of Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. He once said that every man's first battle is with his father. We fight against his rules, his authority, his presence. But what Freud didn't fully explain is this. The battle is never truly against the father. The battle is against the image of him inside us. And that image, distorted by misunderstanding, follows us long after he is gone. Now let's talk about the workplace. How many men carry this misunderstanding into their careers? A boss corrects them, and they hear the echo of their father's criticism. A mentor pushes them, and they feel the same resentment they once felt at home. They think they are rebelling against authority, but really they are still rebelling against their fathers. This is why so many men either overperform or underperform. Some work themselves to exhaustion, still chasing their father's approval. Others give up early, still defying a father who isn't even there anymore. Both are trapped in the same misunderstanding. And here's the most painful part. Fathers and sons rarely speak honestly about this. The son never says, "I felt unloved." The father never says, "I was afraid for you." So the silence remains. The wall remains. And both suffer. But every now and then, something breaks the cycle. A son grows older. He becomes a father himself. And suddenly, he understands. He looks at his own child and feels the same fear, the same desperation, the same urge to push. And in that moment, he finally realizes what his own father felt. The misunderstanding clears. But often by then, the father is gone, and the words that should have been spoken are left unsaid. That is why this truth matters now, while there is still time. Men, if you are listening, hear this. Your father's push was not rejection. It was translation. It was love translated through fear, through regret, through unfinished dreams. And you, as a son, must learn to hear the language beneath the words. Because once you do, the resentment fades, the anger softens, the wall crumbles, and what is left is not a tyrant, but a man who once dreamed, who once failed, who once hoped you would succeed where he could not. The misunderstanding between fathers and sons is perhaps the oldest story in the world. Cain and Abel, Isaac and Ishmael, kings and princes, farmers and sons. It is a story written in every culture, every generation. But it does not have to end in bitterness. It can end in understanding. It can end in respect. It can end in honor. The choice belongs to the son. Do you keep resenting the push? Or do you see it for what it truly is, the passing of a torch, the handing over of an unfinished dream? Because once you see it, everything changes. The father you thought was your enemy becomes your ally. The push you thought was a burden becomes your strength. And the misunderstanding becomes the beginning of wisdom. Every man has a choice, to carry the weight of his father's dream as a burden, or to transform it into power. This is the moment of transformation, the moment when a son stops resenting and starts owning. Think about it. A burden is heavy. It slows you down. It bends your back. You drag it behind you like a chain. But power? Power is also heavy. Only now, instead of breaking you, it builds you. It pushes you forward. It makes you unshakable. The weight doesn't disappear. The difference is how you carry it. Here is the thing. Every dream left unfinished by a father comes to the son in one of two forms: bitterness or fire. If you stay blind to it, it becomes bitterness. If you open your eyes, it becomes fire. Let's take an example. Arnold Schwarzenegger. His father, Gustav, was a strict man, a former policeman, often harsh and demanding. He wanted Arnold to follow a traditional path, join the military, find stability. But Arnold transformed that push. He didn't rebel blindly. He took the discipline, the toughness, the resilience his father demanded and redirected it into bodybuilding, acting, politics. He carried the weight differently. He didn't reject it. He reshaped it. That is transformation. Or think about Nelson Mandela. His father was a local chief, a man of influence who died when Mandela was young. His father's dream of leadership was cut short. Mandela grew up under the shadow of lost authority and unfinished work. But instead of collapsing under that absence, Mandela carried it forward. He didn't just lead a tribe, he led a nation. He didn't just honor his father's name. He gave it a place in history. This is what sons must learn. A father's dream is not meant to be copied. It is meant to be completed. Sometimes completion means finishing the same path. Sometimes it means transcending it. That is the first step of transformation. Stop asking, why did he push me? Start asking, what will I do with what he pushed into me? Because here's the truth. Every push gave you something. Discipline, resilience, ambition, even anger, yes, even that can be fuel. Psychology teaches us that resentment is energy locked in the wrong direction. Redirect it, and it becomes drive. Turn the misunderstood push into conscious fuel, and suddenly what once felt like chains feels like wings. Let me give you a real-world picture. There was a man whose father wanted him to become a doctor. He pressed him, demanded long hours of study. The son resisted, resented, eventually chose business instead. For years he carried guilt. But then one day, he realized something. His father's push wasn't about medicine. It was about excellence. It was about not settling for mediocrity. The son applied that lesson to his company. He built it from nothing to millions. One day he looked back and realized he had honored his father's push, even without becoming what his father wanted. That is transformation. The burden becomes power when you see the principle beneath the push. And this works in every field. In sports, in business, in art, in politics. Look at Tiger Woods. His father, Earl, trained him from the age of 2. It was relentless. Many criticized it. Tiger often struggled with the weight of it. But what was the result? One of the greatest golfers to ever live. The push became mastery. The burden became power. Or take Alexander Hamilton. His father abandoned him. He grew up poor, humiliated. But instead of letting that destroy him, he carried the wound as fuel. He transformed the absence of a father into an unstoppable will to rise. He became a founding father of America, shaping history. The absence became the push. The burden became power. Men, this is the lesson. You don't escape your father's dream by running away. You escape by transforming it. You take what was unfinished and you decide how it will live through you. Now let's talk about how to do it in practical psychology. Step 1. Identify the dream. What was your father pushing you toward? Education, status, security, recognition, freedom. Find the root, not the surface demand, but the deep desire. Step 2. Separate the form from the essence. Maybe your father wanted you to be a doctor, but the essence was achievement, respect, stability. You don't have to become a doctor. You can honor the essence in another form. Build a business, lead a team, create art. The form can change. The essence remains. Step 3. Own it consciously. Once you recognize the dream and its essence, stop resisting it. Claim it. Make it yours. Not because your father demanded it, but because you now see its value. This is where the transformation happens. Resentment turns to strength. Weakness turns to power. The misunderstood push becomes a conscious choice, and once you make it conscious, you are free. Not free from the dream, free within it. Because now you carry it not as a chain, but as a crown. Think of it like this. A torch passed in darkness can burn you if you hold it carelessly. But if you lift it, if you guide it, it lights the way. The same fire that once felt like punishment becomes illumination. This is why some men crumble under their father's weight and others rise. The difference is not the dream. The difference is whether they carried it as burden or transformed it into power. Consider Abraham Lincoln. His father was illiterate, a hard man, a laborer. He pushed his son to work the fields, to survive. Lincoln hated it. He resented the endless manual labor. But instead of letting that bitterness consume him, he transformed it. He saw the poverty, the ignorance, the hardship, and vowed to rise above it. He taught himself to read. He entered politics. He carried the unfinished dream of his father, the dream of a better life, and gave it to a whole nation. That is the path. That is transformation. And here's a truth you need to hear. Your father's dream will live in you whether you like it or not. The only question is, will it live as poison or as power? If you reject it blindly, it festers. It shows up in your choices, in your fears, in your failures. If you embrace it wisely, it fuels you. It shapes you into a man of strength, a man of purpose. So stop running. Stop rebelling for the sake of rebellion. Stop dragging the weight like a corpse. Stand up. Face it. Own it. Say to yourself, yes, my father's dream lives in me, and I will not resent it. I will not waste it. I will make it mine. I will finish what he could not. I will surpass what he imagined. I will transform the burden into power. Because here's the truth. Men, every father's unfinished dream is like a bridge half built. You can stand at the edge, staring at the gap, cursing him for not finishing it. Or you can pick up the tools, lay the next stone, and build it to the other side. The choice is yours. And if you choose power, if you choose transformation, then you not only honor your father, you free yourself. You step into the role of a man who is no longer defined by misunderstanding, no longer trapped by resentment, no longer afraid of the weight. You step into the role of a man who carries legacy like armor, a man who turns pain into strength, a man who takes the unfinished dream and builds it into something eternal. Every story comes to this moment, the moment of decision. You, as a son, stand at the crossroads. On one side lies resentment, blame, excuses. On the other side lies understanding, power, and legacy. The father handed you the torch. Maybe too roughly, maybe too harshly, maybe without the words you long to hear. But the torch is in your hand, nonetheless. And now, the question is no longer about him. The question is about you. Will you let the flame die, or will you carry it into the future? Here is the truth that should shake you awake. Your life is not yours alone. You are the continuation of a story written before you were born, a story of men who struggled, failed, sacrificed, and dreamed, and now you are the chapter they never got to finish. Every man listening to this carries two inheritances. One is blood, the other is unfinished dreams. Weak men waste both. They mock their fathers, curse their upbringing, and try to live as if they owe nothing. But here's the secret. No man is free by denying his past. You are free only when you face it, understand it, and build upon it. So ask yourself, what dream was left in your hands? What bridge was left half built? What torch was placed burning in your grasp? Because the man who breaks free is not the one who escapes his father. He is the one who transforms the inheritance. He is the one who sees the unfinished dream and says, I will not let it die with him. I will make it mine. I will finish it, and I will surpass it. Think about the great men of history. Alexander didn't just honor his father's vision, he expanded it into legend. Mandela didn't just inherit a broken world, he rebuilt it into freedom. Carnegie didn't just carry his father's failure, he transformed it into an empire. They didn't run from the dream, they rose into it. And now it is your turn. Maybe your father dreamed of education but never had the chance. Then your task is not just to study, but to seek wisdom deeper than he ever imagined. Maybe your father dreamed of wealth but died in poverty. Then your task is not just to make money, but to build a legacy of freedom and dignity. Maybe your father dreamed of respect but lived in obscurity. Then your task is not just to be known, but to be remembered for something that matters. This is not burden. This is calling. This is not chain. This is crown. And yet, too many men waste it. They spend years resenting their fathers, never realizing they are holding the key to their own greatness. They waste their energy in rebellion instead of rising in mastery. They die with the same unfinished dream their fathers carried. But you are not meant for that. You are here listening because something in you knows the truth. You feel the weight. You feel the fire. You feel the unfinished dream burning inside you, and you are meant to finish it. Here's how you break free. First, stop playing the victim. Stop saying, "My father was too hard. My father didn't understand me." Maybe he was. Maybe he didn't. But he gave you something priceless, a vision bigger than yourself. Own it. Second, redefine the dream. Don't just repeat your father's steps. Ask, what was the essence of his push? What was the heart of his desire? Then build it in your own way. Make it yours. Third, surpass it. Do not just finish the dream, expand it. Carry it further. Build higher. Push deeper. Let your life be proof that his push was not in vain. Because the truth is, the man who breaks free is not the one who denies his inheritance. He is the one who redeems it. Think about it. If your father's dream was a bridge half built, you can either leave it in ruins, or you can complete it and walk across to the other side. If your father's dream was a torch, you can either let it burn out in your hands, or you can carry it forward and light the world. Which will you choose? Men, listen carefully. There will come a day when you stand at your father's grave, and in that moment, all resentment will feel small. All anger will feel empty. What will remain is one question. Did you honor the dream? Did you take the push, the pressure, the misunderstood love, and turn it into greatness? Or did you let it rot into excuses? Do not wait until that day. Decide now. Because your father's story is already over, but yours is not. And if you live fully, if you rise boldly, then his dream does not die. It lives in you. It breathes in you. It conquers through you. The man who breaks free is the man who takes the unfinished dream and makes it eternal. So rise. Pick up the weight and carry it like armor. Pick up the fire and wield it like a weapon. Pick up the dream and finish what was left undone. Because one day, your son will look at you, and he will feel your push, and he will either misunderstand you as you misunderstood your father, or he will see the truth earlier because you lived it out fully. You cannot change the past, but you can redeem it. You can be the man who breaks the cycle, the man who transforms burden into power, the man who turns unfinished dreams into living legacies. This is your calling. This is your test. This is your moment. So I ask you, will you carry the dream as a weight that crushes you, or will you lift it high and let it crown you? The choice is yours. Be the man who breaks free. Now you know the truth. Your life was never just your own. It was the continuation of a dream your father could not finish. The pressure you felt, the push you hated, the words that once burned you, they were never meant to break you. They were meant to prepare you. Every scar, every demand, every silence was his way of handing you the torch. And the question is no longer, why did he push me so hard? The question is, what will you do with it now? You can waste it in resentment, or you can rise with it in power. You can curse the weight, or you can wear it as a crown. Because one day your son will look at you, and he will feel your push. And when that day comes, you'll want him to understand what you now know. The story does not end with your father. It does not end with you. It continues. It expands. It becomes legacy. So take the torch, finish the dream, make it greater. Be the man who breaks free and builds something eternal.